We celebrated the feast of St. Peter Claver on Thursday last week, and I discovered that not many people know about this 17th century saint. He was a Jesuit priest from Catalonia, but served as a missionary in Colombia for 38 years. He was particularly devoted to African slaves and baptized more than 300,000, calling himself the slave of slaves. He is the patron saint of Colombia, race relations, and ministry to Black people. I'd like to read you an excerpt from his journal, written on May 30th, 1627. Yesterday, on the Feast of the Most Holy Trinity, numerous Blacks brought from the rivers of Africa disembarked from a large ship. We had to force our way through the crowd until we reached the sick. Large numbers of the sick were lying on the wet ground, or rather in puddles of mud. To prevent excessive dampness, someone had thought of building up a mound with a mixture of tiles and broken pieces of bricks. This, then, was their couch, a very uncomfortable one, not only for that reason, but especially because they were naked, without any clothing to protect them. We laid aside our cloaks, therefore, and brought from a warehouse whatever was handy to build a platform. In that way, we covered a space to which we at last transferred the sick by forcing a passage through bands of slaves. There were 2 Blacks, nearer death than life, already cold, whose pulse could scarcely be detected. With the help of a tile, we pulled some live coals together and placed them in the middle, near the dying men. Into this fire we tossed aromatics. Of these we had 2 wallets full, and we used them all up on that occasion. Then, using our cloaks, for they had nothing of this sort, and to ask the owners for others would have been a waste of words, we provided for them a smoke treatment by which they seemed to recover their warmth and the breath of life. The joy in their eyes as they looked at us was something to see. This was how we spoke to them, not with words, but with our hands and our actions. Any other language would have proved utterly useless. Then we sat, or rather knelt, beside them and bathed their faces and their bodies with wine. We made every effort to encourage them with friendly gestures and displayed in their presence the emotions which somehow naturally tend to hearten the sick. When I read this passage in the office of readings Thursday morning, I was struck by so many parts of it. I found it very inspiring and moving. But the image that stayed with me throughout the day, and even now, was of St. Peter Claver, waiting for the ships from Africa to arrive on the shore, and then rushing through the crowds to greet them as they disembarked, especially searching and finding those who were sick and near death. That sense of expectation, urgency, and commitment to help those in need without asking any questions and just using his hands and emotions and facial expressions to care for them was quite inspiring. Obviously, it was his compassion to the slaves for almost 40 years in Colombia that eventually led to his sainthood. He was a remarkable man who clearly lived the gospel, and in particular, the words that we hear in the second reading today from the letter of James. Faith of itself, if it does not have works, is dead. Now, it would be easy to venerate such a person and hold him up as a model of charity in the image of Jesus Christ and just stare at him in awe and wonder for what he has done. But then we would miss the point that what he did, we must also do. All of us are called to offer what we can to those in need around us. As we hear in the gospel today, whoever wishes to come after me, the Lord says, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel will save it. Now, this can mean many things, but it can also mean that we help someone whose cross is too heavy for them to bear, to lift them up, and to offer our assistance. Catholic Charities, in a sense, is our local St. Peter Claver. Every day, they are standing ready and waiting to help those who are in need, who come to them. They meet people where they are, without asking questions or demanding answers, but always offering compassion. Thanks to our support last year, Catholic Charities was able to provide housing for 99 homeless women through the Sanctuary Women's Development Centers, to facilitate over 2,000 hours of infant care by foster parents, to distribute 2,500 snack packs and 1,500 hygiene packs statewide, to issue $1.3 million in emergency rent and utility assistance, as well as refugee cash assistance and housing deposits for the homeless, to provide many hours of counseling and immigration legal services, and much, much more. None of this would be possible without our support and generous contributions. Each year, Archbishop Coakley asks all of us to consider making a pledge to Catholic Charities and its annual appeal. Together, we can improve the lives of everyone served through various programs that they offer and assist the most vulnerable in our communities across the Archdiocese. As a parish in Midtown, we see firsthand the plight of many people who are on the streets and for whatever reason are desperate and lack the necessities for life. But through Catholic Charities, we can help and offer them our support and assistance. The image of the appeal this year, which is printed on your worship aid, shows the connection that we have with other people. Imagine for a moment that we are standing in front of a mirror, and instead of seeing our own reflection in it, we see someone else staring back at us, a person who is suffering, poor, hungry, or downtrodden. Now, once we get over the initial shock of such an experience, we might realize that, this is not me, and then come up with a million reasons why we can't get involved or why they are in their situation. But like Peter in the gospel, we must resist the temptation to think like human beings do and instead think as God does and feel their pain and their hopelessness and see that we have a responsibility to help, just like St. Peter Claver did, who cared for countless slaves coming to the shores of Colombia. He helped them and gave his life for them because they were in need and for no other reason. This is our mission as disciples, and Catholic Charities provides us with an opportunity, with a way to live out this mission and to serve others, especially the most in need. Today, throughout the Archdiocese, Catholics in their various parishes are asked to support the works of Catholic Charities by making a pledge. Here at St. Francis, I'd like for you to consider making a gift this year. If you've already made a pledge by a mailing that you may have received earlier, thank you so much for your commitment and your generosity. If you have yet to make a pledge, you may do so today. In your worship aids, when you came in, you should have received an envelope. The ushers will now walk around with pens, and if you need one, please raise your hand. We're going to take some time here during the Mass for you to fill out the pledge card. On the pledge card, you can write a check, you can make a cash donation, you can also desire to use your credit card or even an automatic withdrawal from your checking account, which I have chosen to do. I sent my envelope in a couple of weeks ago, but I failed to put a canceled check in there, so they've been hunting me down. They've been very good about trying to find me. I have not forgotten. Why is it sometimes the most easiest things are the hardest things to get done? But anyway, any way that you feel comfortable giving, they will be grateful for your contribution. In fact, on the front of the card, I don't normally encourage you. In fact, I never encourage you to use your phones during Mass. But in this case, if you would prefer to text, you can text. It's printed here on the front of your worship aid, providing to the number here, 41444. If you'd like to make a gift to any amount, they will give you that information. You can also go to a website, which is give2cc, Catholic Charities.org, and you can make an online gift. Like I said, we'll take a few moments for you to fill out the cards. I appreciate your generosity. And then I will instruct the ushers to take up that collection, and then we will continue with the Mass with our profession of faith and then the general intercessions, and then we'll take up the collection for the parish. Thank you so much. May God bless you in your generosity.